Okay, folks. So you will be doing the SAP assignment on management accounting or controlling. Now, as you have read in chapter 3, management accounting is for internal purposes only, reporting for internal purposes, where you have the management. The management wants to keep a track of how every department is doing, what are the costs that our department is incurring. So for example, if you're a company that where you have a sales team and the management wants to account for track all the salesmen's travel expenses. Okay, so they need a way to track that, and they're going to use the controlling or the management accounting module in SAP to do that. Okay, we're going to see an example here with the GBI company trying to keep a track of how much expenses they're incurring in maintaining a canteen to serve snacks and food and drinks to their employees. Okay. Now, having said that, there is no separate chapter as per se for management accounting or controlling, if you have already noticed, because chapter 3, which is on financial accounting, essentially it's on accounting, covers a decent portion of management accounting. Most of the concepts are similar, except the fact that management accounting is for internal reporting purposes. So let's look at what this assignment entails. And like any other assignment, you need to understand what you will be doing in this, okay? Without just going about clicking, following instructions and just clicking, you need to understand what's going on here. So let's read the scenario. Learning objective is to understand and perform a cost center accounting process. Now, when we talk about cost centers, that is, we're talking about costs that are incurred by a department within the company. The scenario is, in order to perform the cost center accounting, you will take on different roles within the company GI. And you will be working on controlling department. To assess and allocate costs associated with the cafeteria cost centers, cost elements and activity types are created first. You will then plan the activity outputs, the primary cost inputs, and the internal activity inputs. Okay. So let's look at this create cost center. So you'll create 3 cost centers. These cost centers basically track costs. Okay, when you are creating a cost center, those are essentially allowing you, there are tools within SAP to track costs. So you're creating here 3 cost centers. Create cost centers for canteen, maintenance, and assembly. The cost center represents an organizational unit within a controlling area and specifies a uniquely definable instance where costs are incurred. This definition can be based on functions, settlement specific, geography, or cost responsibility. So this is number 1, the step number 1 that you'll be creating. Then create a statistical figure. Now, because the canteen here, you are basically, the exercise is mostly dealing with the establishing a cost center and tracking costs within the cafeteria. Okay. Now it says here that because the canteen costs are set for 3 cost centers, the number of employees in the cost centers is the allocation base for cost ascent. So that's the key statistical figure. You will create a key statistical figure for this purpose. Okay. Create secondary elements, secondary cost elements to assess the cost of canteen, assembly, and maintenance. So number 3 is secondary cost elements. Then number 4 is you create activity types. So the activity types are organizational unit within the controlling area that classify the activities performed within a cost center. So are they labor activities, or what sort of activities are we talking about within that cost center, within that canteen? Okay, so those are activity types. Create cost center group. So every cost center is associated with a group, and you're going to create a cost center group to assess the canteen's cost. And then plan the number of employees. So you will now look into, okay, how many employees do I need to have in order to run this canteen? How much costs will I incur if I employ X number of employees? Okay. Then what are the primary cost inputs? Okay, what are the inputs? What are the primary costs associated with running this canteen? Plan. Then you have the internal activity inputs in number 9. And once all this is done, all this planning is done, then you review all this planning. And here it says all cost centers have been charged with primary costs. In addition, you can also see the total inputs and internal allocation quantities in maintenance and assembly. Then you will be creating an assessment the costs, and then view the assessment results. You will compute the costs of activity types, and then finally in number 14 you will review the price calculations. So in just, if you look at this assignment, this is an assignment that allows you to understand or give you a snapshot, if you will, of how you will basically, what are cost centers, what are the cost elements associated with it, and how do you plan for to keep a track and report costs or expenses within a company. Because here in this case, the GBI company's management wanted them to keep a track of the costs of running the cafeteria, the canteen. And this assignment essentially showed you or kind of demonstrated to you how SAP can enable that. Okay. Now again, having said that, make sure you read the chapter on accounting. There's no separate chapter on management accounting, but the concepts are very similar. You just have to understand that in management accounting, it is fundamentally different from financial accounting in that management accounting is used for internal reporting purposes. That is, if the management wants to track expenses, costs associated within a single department or multiple departments, or maybe even a group of specific employees, they can do that. So with that said, good luck with the assignment. That's all I have.